An update as well from Ukraine's Interior Ministry saying the number of people who died in the attack on Kyiv has now risen to 12. They say rescuers have unblocked the bodies of 2 more people from under rubble in the Svyatoshin district of the Ukrainian capital. A total of 90 people were injured in that specific attack as a result of a Russian missile strike. Of course, there were other attacks overnight in other parts of Ukraine as well, injuring more people too. Here with me in the studio is our defence and security analyst, Professor Michael Clarke, to talk about all of this. Michael, it's been going on for over 3 years, and it's a reminder, isn't it, hearing how the politicians are talking in the UK, from Europe, from the US, of how the situation in Ukraine is key to our defence, to our energy security, to the cost of living.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, we're living in a period, as everyone says, of structural change. The world is changing around us on a week-by-week basis. And in so many ways, what's happening in Ukraine crystallises all of those changes because it's the front line in a major competition now between the dictatorships and the liberal democracies. And we've all said that. I mean, that's what Putin has said. He makes it clear that Ukraine, he said, is just the beginning of the attack that the West, he said, is mounting against Russia. And Western politicians from the very beginning have said that this is a red line for us. We cannot allow Ukraine to be taken over in an act of naked aggression just because the Putin elite thinks that Ukraine ought to be a part of Russia again.
We're seeing the map on the screen there. Of course, that shaded area is held by Russia, including Crimea, and also you can see there the number of places that Russia attacked overnight. We've talked about Kyiv. How normal is this in the context of the ongoing war? Was this an exceptional attack by Russia overnight? Yes,
it was. Bigger than most. I mean, some of the bigger attacks have been 100, 120, 130 missiles and drones. This was, according to the Ukrainians, they said there were 70 missiles, 145 drones, so this is bigger than most. It's also more widespread than most, and it was an attack on several civilian areas. Now, the Kremlin has said in the last couple of hours, they said, we conducted a massive attack last night on the military-industrial complex of Ukraine. Well, we'd like to see a bit more evidence of what this military-industrial complex was, but at the moment, what we're aware of is these pictures from just west of the centre of Kyiv. And the Ukrainians have said that some of the missiles that were used were the North Korean missiles, the KN-23, which is a pretty heavy missile. It's a bit like the Iskander, the Russian Iskander missile. It's a low trajectory missile, but because it's short range, it can carry quite a big warhead. So these things can carry a 500-kilo warhead, which is a ton, effectively a 1,000-pound warhead. And if it hits a building, it will bring it down. And they have a pretty high accuracy level. I mean, they're 100 metres either way. Within 100 metres, they ought to be getting their target. So again, unless somebody could find a very important military installation next to this residential building, then it just doesn't stand up that this was an attack on the military-industrial complex.
Let's finish off by talking about the US influence and impact on the situation, because yesterday, in terms of Donald Trump's criticism of Volodymyr Zelensky, is almost business as usual. We've come to expect that. Today, a change. He's calling on Vladimir Putin to stop. Does the US have waning influence over the situation here?
It's not clear, I mean, what influence the United States really does have over Putin now. I think, Putin knows that he's got Donald Trump on a hook, that the US is desperate for a deal, Trump is desperate for a deal, and I think Putin feels that he can extract more carrots, concessions out of America before he does a deal, or he can make sure that Trump blames Zelensky if a deal isn't done. But I mean, Trump must have been very angry to hear about this attack, because it's exactly what he didn't want, and it almost shows that Putin is prepared to defy him. If we assume that the attack was also politically approved, that it wasn't just another attack, the size of it and the widespread nature of the targets must indicate that it was approved at the Kremlin level. I would imagine it was. So Putin seems to be pushing his luck on this, but I think he must gather the idea that Trump may complain about this, but ultimately Trump needs a deal more than Putin does, and Putin actually doesn't want to stop fighting because he assumes that he will do better the longer the war goes on in terms of the territory that he can grab in Ukraine.